Good day, Meticulous Moments audience. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And today we have the wonderful privilege of spending time with the amazing Martin Manuel Nuza. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Welcome, Martin.
Yes, you have pronounced it correctly. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for the honor and the privilege. And audience, Martin is an award-winning producer. He's a director, a writer, a published author, and a ghostwriter. And I'm going to be posting his phenomenal bio when I post this recording. So make sure you check it out, as well as his IMDb link. And we had a lovely conversation yesterday, and we are so excited to go into this conversation. So enjoy every moment with us. And my first question to you, Martin, would be, let's start from the beginning. I love the story that you told me about when you were 6 and you liked the action films and how you looked at the different angles of how movies were made. Tell us more, please.
Yes, when I was 6 years old, I was like any young kid, watched a lot of TV. But there was this particular movie that my parents was watching, and I saw a shot of this car going up a ramp and leaping over and landing on a different ramp. And I just watched it and I thought to myself, that's strange. That the guy must have gone up, down, turn around. They've moved the angle of the camera, then leaped again, down, turn around, then move the camera. And then I realized they must have just done one jump and did it with multiple cameras and then put it all together somehow. And that was the first time I realized, the magic of movie making, and that I wanted to be part of that. And but ever since then, it's been creativity all the way.
I can see that from your projects, and we are going to discuss, the movies that you've worked on, amongst other things. And we also, you also shared with me that in 1991 you started, your first program or your first short film, and I believe it was Zombies Revenge. And I love the way how you illustrated those were the days of the VHSs and the editing process. Please tell the audience, because I'm sure they will find it very, very interesting and delightful.
Yes, 1991, The Zombies Revenge. That was my first ever short film. And I bought myself a National M7 VHS video camera to record it. And it was a big, bulky camera, very big. The problem with that is that the technology that filmmakers have today, with the power of a PC, they can just edit very quickly. In those days, the tape, if you pause the tape on a normal VHS, the tape would go back slightly. So you had to anticipate running the tape a few more seconds and then hit the pause and pray that when the tape goes back, it's in the right frame that you want it to be. So editing with two VHS VCRs is how I basically learned the first steps of the editing system back then. And I edited the Zombies Revenge. It took me about 3 months finally, after so much hit and runs, editing, pause, goes back, miss it, then play, forward, pause, go back, get it in the right frame. It was a nightmare. So the filmmakers nowadays have really great technology advances with Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, Sony Vegas, and all these other editing programs, which are very, very good.
Oh, but that, the fact that you spent 3 months to do that editing just shows your passion for what you do, the love for what you do, that tenacity to go through it, to make sure that it's perfect, that it's aligned, that it's on the exact frame, the seconds that you want it. So, I mean, that carries the beginning of 1991. What you did right there, those 3 months that you spent on that project on Zombies Revenge, that kind of, for me, set the stage for the excellence that you showed through all your other projects. And I would like to delve into some of them, because Moondrake that we talked about yesterday really caught my attention about all the children and the countries and the differences in culture. Please tell us more.
Yes, one of my associates in America, Jane Fitzpatrick, Burkett Hahn Productions, we developed a series called Moondrake. It's basically a 12-episode season one animated series that focuses on different cultures for the younger generation, kids, for example, living in India, or kids living in Asia or Eastern Europe, and their way of life, and how easy it is to be immersed in their culture and in our world, in our culture, of how good we really have it compared to how they don't. So it's a really creative a project called Moondrake, and the idea of that is to bring um, spiritual harmony uh, in the entire world. And Jane's done a fantastic job with the project. I've written about 6 different episodes. Mark Ripley, who's also an associate of Templegate Films, he's written a number of episodes, and Jane's written the rest. And that's a really fascinating project for the younger generation in today's world to learn about the world itself and try and make the world a much better place to live in for everyone, for the environmental sake, for the education sake, and for everything else. So it's a
I
very good
love the
series indeed.
concept. Absolutely love the concept. And I love the phrase spiritual harmony. Because, as I've also worked with people over the years in the spiritual area, in the spiritual field of ministry, I used to teach the kids that our cultures are different, our worldviews are different, our preconceptions are different. And I used to try and help them to find middle ground. And I love the fact that this Moondrake series does just that. It makes it easier for them to relate on certain things and to see other people's viewpoints, which can only be a positive, it can only have a positive effect on them.
Of course, and like I said, it for the younger generation, it will inspire these young kids to develop the integrity of being in Earth, in the world, and learn a very productive way of living and being grateful of what they really have. Um, necessarily, all the materialistic things like computers and the latest games and stuff.
Yeah.
That's just something that is a very minimum part of life.
Yeah.
Life is everything around us. Mother Nature is a very important thing, and if we don't treat her right, the world will be a very bad place for everyone, even
Yes.
our generation, younger generation,
True.
and the generation to follow.
Yeah.
So we have to look after her very well. And
Yeah.
this Moondrake is a very good step in that way, in that process.
I agree. I agree. It's uplifting. It gives them the tools. It teaches them the right values. And, living in South Africa, I love going for nature baths. I love going out into nature. And I have this one mountain that I go to. And I used to take my youth groups there because you have the odd person here and there that would litter nature. They would go and have a picnic there. They would leave everything there. And I used to teach them, you keep that area, your area clean, you look after animals and nature. And these are the foundational things that are so important for them to build a good life. And I mean, you've been all over the world. I believe you shot Adrenaline. I think it was, where was that? Romania in 2019. Tell us a little bit more about
That's
Adrenaline.
correct. Well, Adrenaline was shot in Romania, and it was actually the start of the lockdown during the COVID. So we were at one of the very few production companies that were actually shooting a film at that time during lockdown. And we had a great team. Adrenaline was written by Adrian Miles from Australia, and it was directed by Max Kirky and produced by myself and my partner from Mars UK, Adam Saini. and we had the local producers over there in Romania, which was Andrei Lupo and then Alena Mirek. Basically, it's a story about an FBI agent played by Constance Payne, who goes to Eastern Europe, to Romania. Her husband is played by James Stokes, and their child gets kidnapped. The husband gets killed, and she has to join forces with a rogue agent to basically find her daughter within 12 hours. And it's a roller coaster ride of action and thriller and mystery and stunts that culminate in, well, I'm not going to give you some spoilers, but it has a happy ending at the end, put it that way.
Oh, good to know, because I was already stressed just hearing the plot. I'm a mother, so just thinking about having to go look for my children, it's horrifying.
Yes, and we shot it in just over 2 weeks. It was a very intense shoot.
And what are the hours like when you only have 2 weeks to do a shoot? I mean, that must be long hours and a lot of planning.
Yes, it's called basically guerrilla filmmaking, which is basically it's not a 9 to 5. You start very early and you finish very late, and it's continuously. You do a one take, you go to the next, you go to the next location and continue with the takes until your daily schedule is completed. So we're talking about days that are 14 up to 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
But it's done for a reason. We need to shoot in a certain location at a certain time. So we have to get a certain cast member out within a certain time. So we have to justify a lot of things into a certain area and really, squash it like you would do a lemon or an orange. To the last drops to get everything in time correctly.
Yeah.
If we lose time, then it's a knock-on effect that will spoil the rest of the shooting schedule for the rest of the days to come, because that means we have to now allocate 2 more hours on a very hectic day to finish the scene that we couldn't film a previous day.
Yes.
So it has to be done literally non-stop until we finish. But it's good because you have a good camaraderie on set. You always keep people motivated and very fed, very important, giving them all the munchies and cookies and food and keep everyone happy with that sense too. Break out the old joke every now and again, kept the morale really active. And adrenaline, we like I mentioned, we had Luis Mandela, and we also had his brother Costas Mandela too, playing scenes in that scene.
Oh, wow. So that sounds like an action-packed filming, 2 weeks of action-packed filming, grit and grind, all hands on deck, everybody just working together like a well-oiled machine. And I can understand that everybody gets closer in that because, there's one goal and everybody's just focused on achieving that goal. It must be amazing to see how friendships develop, relationships, brotherhood develops between the actors and the cast and the producer and director and everybody that's involved on set.
Yes.
I think that's a beautiful thing.
And you also realize for actors that you haven't worked with before, how really eye-opener those people really are and how they could fit in other of your projects.
Yeah.
For example, I mentioned Constance Payne. She's a very good actress. She's a great stunt performer. She does all the fights. She's very good. There was also another two great actors involved, which was Stephen Satterfield and also Alexandra Hock, both from the UK, from the US. And they also have great potential for acting, and they've done loads of stuff also. And I'm very happy that I've met them. I call them as friends too, and they're always in mind for future projects because I know what they're capable of. So it's an eye opener for everyone.
It is. We learn and we grow together. I want to give a shout out as well to Stephen Sattersfield. He is my brother, he's my friend, and it's because of Stephen that I'm here with Martin today, that we're doing this interview, because he made the lovely suggestion, John Varnes and Stephen. So thank you, guys. I appreciate you, and absolutely I agree. They are multi-talented, definitely. And who wouldn't want to work with them, because they're also lovely, lovely people, just those personalities shining through. I love it.
Yes, and Stephen plays the doctor in the Adrenaline, and
I saw the
his
photo.
character comes to life. Really, really, his expression is really great.
And the
He's a great guy.
voice.
I mean,
Yeah, I
and the
saw
voice,
the
deep voice.
photo. Yeah, because I know Stephen, and he's lovely and kind, and we have lovely conversations, and he's just so friendly. And then I saw the photo, and he actually made that voice for me. He did the same voiceover that he did in the film, and I thought, oh my gosh! I told him that sounds very dangerous and creepy. That's a good role for him to do.
Yeah, it sounds something like this. Rapper. Something like that. And when I heard it, I said, "Wow, okay, you're on the right track
I
there."
would run. I would run the other way. But he's perfect for those roles, absolutely. Now, we talked about Scotland as well. You had phenomenal success with Scotland, and I believe it was shot in India. Tell us a little bit about the plot.
Yes,
That was also hair-raising plot that you had there.
yes. Scotland was produced again by with my partner at the time from Mars UK, Adam Saini, and the director was Manish Vaslaya.
Yeah.
And Scotland is basically deals. It's a true story. There's a doctor in England, and his ancestors are from India, and his daughter, teenage daughter, was born and raised in England, and she had never been to India. So one day, the doctor gets a call from a very high up authority politician in India that his mother is really sick and he needs the speciality of this doctor, who's a brain surgeon, to help her. So the doctor decides from England to go across, and he takes his teenage daughter along the way because she's never been to India. So when they arrive, the doctor saves the mother of the high politician, but unknown to him, uh, the son of the politician and three other teenage boys gang rape and nearly kill the daughter.
Oh,
And in India, it's a shame that the culture at the moment, they look at the women,
mm,
especially the girls, and they're very bad, like like a commodity. They don't treat them as they should do.
yeah.
And there's a lot of rapes, a lot of women being killed there, and it's just something that unfortunately they do take for granted.
Yes.
So returning back to the Scotland film, um, cut a long story short, the father tries to take the boys to court. He does, but because the father of the boy, one of the boys, is so up in the political level and corruption is
Mm,
overwhelming,
yeah.
the four boys go scot-free and they literally walk away. And the politician tells the father to drop everything and leave immediately. And the father doesn't take this very good, as you would expect, seeing that the daughter is nearly dead.
Mm,
So, and by the way, the daughter is played by Khushbu. She's a great actress, Indian actress too, lovely person. So, what does the father do? The father plots a revenge scheme
mm,
to kill the four boys one at a time, and he leaves the last one, which is the politician's son, for last. And it's a great scheme. The
yeah.
way that he did it, masterminded the whole thing, was so impressive that we love the story. And Adam and his wife, Saina, we actually produced this film, and it was made successfully. It's won over 60 international awards, and it was nominated for the 92nd Academy Awards for Best Picture back in 2020. for the first round of the awards, of course. We didn't go any beyond that, but at least, you know, we got all the paperwork from the Academy Awards nominating the actual film, which is a good success in many ways. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment and it brings awareness. And I love, love, love. There's nothing better than a good storyline. Then a plot twist here and there that it grips you. When you start to watch that movie, you don't want to move an inch. You are so vested in that story. Because sometimes we watch these films and they connect the dots for us. Sometimes there's people that find closure on certain things. Sometimes there's people that get that awareness that they need to have. And these films just bring magic to the world. There's nothing like a good film. Oh, I love watching movies. Absolutely. I can't watch this one.
Can I just mention something else? The father, the doctor, is played by Adam Saini, and he's a great, talented actor, and he's a good friend. Yeah. And the film, actually, I remember when I was growing up watching the Charles Bronson Death Wish.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that. No, it's an old film now, but Death Wish is in a similar genre. But what made this Scotland more interesting is that it's actually based on a true story. So it's scary stuff, but it's very good.
Yeah, it drives it home. The fact that it's a real life story, people really suffered through this trauma. That makes it even more heavy, you know, in your spirit. People need to go on those emotional roller coasters. Sometimes they need that because it's good for them, because it helps them to do introspection. And I know you also worked in, and this is a Latin word, guys, that I learned yesterday. I thought it was Spanish. I hope I pronounced it correctly. In tenebras, into the darkness. Tell us about in tenebras.
Okay, you pronounce it correctly. In tenebras is Latin. It actually means darkness. So the project's name is In Tenebras, subtitled Into the Darkness. I wrote the script in February of this year, and we went into production in July of this year. It was a very speedy process, and the script is partially based on a true story of during the Second World War in Gibraltar. There was a German submarine that was captured near Gibraltar, and it was towed over to the Gibraltar port. Now, for your viewers who don't know where Gibraltar is connected to the southern part of the Iberian Peninsula at Spain, and it's also beside North Africa. So we are surrounded by two continents, Europe and Africa. And during the war, Gibraltar was British. Spain was neutral, and Africa was in the early stages of the war under the German and Italian control. Cut a long story short, a German U-boat comes into play near the strait. The British capture it, tow it to Gibraltar, and they discover there are a number of people of the crew that are dead inside. Upon close inspection, the British realize it's carrying a massive cargo of gold. Oh. And no one would talk. Everyone in the crew is sort of scared. Mm. And the only one who knew where the gold was going to was the captain, who didn't talk anyway. So the crew were ushered off into a POW camp in Gibraltar, and the gold was buried inside the rock of Gibraltar in a special tunnel system, fearing an attack by the Germans called Operation Felix at the time. And if the Germans did capture Gibraltar, they would get the gold, and the gold would then be used against the Allied powers and the Allied forces. So the British decided to hide the gold so it would never be captured by the Germans. Now, what happened to the gold after the war is a big mystery. Even today, no one knows. No one's found the gold, if it's still there. So I myself was born and raised in Gibraltar, and I've heard about this story amongst many other stories about the war. So I wrote the script based on the backbone of that story. So the actual film opens in 1941 when the British buried the gold. Then we switch to present day, and we have three grandkids of one of the persons who hid the gold coming to Gibraltar, and they bring a map of where the grandfather had marked,
Oh,
like a typical
wow.
treasure hunt map.
X marks the
X
spot.
marks the spot. The gold is there. So these three kids, who are played by local actors Anthony Lodo, Rebecca Davies, and Johan Wilkinson. Sorry, always switch the name anyway. They're great, talented actors, the three of them, and I know they're going to go far. So they come along, they break into the rocks inside the tunnel systems, and unfortunately, they get lost because the tunnel
Oh,
system has been
scary.
on after
Oh,
the war.
yeah.
I mean, there are over 30 miles, 30 miles of tunnels inside the Rock of Gibraltar.
Oh
The
my,
majority were built during the war by the Royal Engineers alongside the Canadian engineers from Ottawa.
yeah.
So, what happens there? These three kids are lost inside. It's a dark area. The battery packs are going to run out shortly.
Oh
They've
no.
got no provisions along the journey. So the military come involved, and they start searching and search and rescue for these kids.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the gold comes with a curse,
Oh,
and the whole concept of the film is a survival. It's a survival film. Something happens. I'm not going to give spoilers out, but something does happen to the kids,
yeah.
and the military, who are there to hide and keep the gold from being found because of the curse that follows, are also they've also have a conspiracy plan in motion for the gold and the curse.
Yeah.
So the film is based on two parts. One is the kids
Yeah.
searching for the gold, and the other is a military side trying to keep the gold from being found, but at the same time, they want the gold to be found so the curse is unleashed. So
Oh,
it's a big uh,
wow.
matter of twists and turns that will keep the viewer sort of guessing what's going to happen next. There's a
Yeah.
lot of action involved, a lot of mystery, a lot of suspense, a lot of conspiracy theories thrown into the mix too. The main actors for these, apart from the local actors, are Michael Paré from
Mhm.
America, Costas Mandila again, he came along for this project too, and also a very talented British actress called Taya Kansik. She's
Oh,
also a stunt coordinator and a stunt performer, and she did all the stunts for this film and a lot of these fight scenes too.
oh,
And Taya, in all fairness, she's a great actress. She's a very talented person,
yeah.
and she's a great fighter. And I also know that this film will also be a launch pad for her because she's got a great career ahead of her.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that. I mean, you know who to pick, you know who you want to work with. You've certainly got the experience. And as you explained, the military side and the children and the city, kilometer or mile radius of these tunnels underground, the curse. I'm thinking it's one of those movies where you go, like you're like, oh, I don't want to see, but I want to see, and there's jump scares and there's all of those kinds of things. So I'm sure the audience is going to enjoy it thoroughly. Absolutely. I can't wait to see it.
Yes, there's a lot of jump scares, a lot of suspense. And the good thing about this film is that, like you mentioned before, I've worked internationally in many projects. And one of the benefits of that is that you meet different crew members.
Mm.
But for Gibraltar, for this film, In Tenebras, Into the Darkness, I wanted to use local talent. So I used a cinematographer locally in Gibraltar. She's called Shania Torres. She's very good with the camera work. And the lighting was done by a very good friend of mine called Jim Crone. And in order to film inside the tunnel system, because it's so dark, we need to illuminate it in a certain manner to give the look that we really want. It's not a
Yeah.
matter of just putting a fog light in, and
Yeah.
that's not the effect that we want. So Jim actually did a great work with illuminating all the tunnels for us.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why I wanted to choose a young crew and a
Yeah.
local crew in Gibraltar is to give them the opportunity to work in a major film.
Mm,
Because if you don't give them the opportunity, they'll never extend their talents. And
true.
unfortunately, what I want to say is true. We're not getting any younger. You know, as the years go by, all of us are getting older. And if we don't get the experience to the younger generation,
Mhm.
in 20 years' time, there was not going to be that many experienced crew
Yeah.
members around because we're all using the same crews who are also getting older.
Yeah.
So I always like to give the opportunity to younger people and give them that chance, the opportunity to open through the door and make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that the crew I got in Gibraltar, although they were very young, they're all very talented and they all know exactly what needs to be done. So I'm sure that I've opened the door for them, and this will
Yeah.
be one of many projects for them.
Absolutely. I'm sure it was pleasant to work with them. Having to just give them that opportunity and to see them excel and to just live out their passions as well and show their abilities. That's very edifying to see. And we talked about the stressors that directors and producers have behind the scene. And I remember you mentioned that there's 200 professionals that you have to keep, it's per se that you have to keep track of. And they, for instance, you used the example of a vehicle. If a vehicle has to be at a certain place at a certain time. Tell the audience a little bit about the stress because it's a beautiful um, uh, job to do. It's a wonderful vocation to have, but everything comes with a little bit of stress, right? So what are the stressors that you would have on set, for instance?
Well, a filmmaker, even an aspiring filmmaker who wants to break into the industry, will assume making a film is easy. It is if you have everything correctly placed and prepared. But even if you have it prepared correctly, things can go wrong.
Huh?
So when you do a film and you're producing it, you have to rely on other people. It's not a one-man band. So other people include people who may be collaborating in a particular car or a boat or whatever requirements needed to do that scene correctly. And if that car or boat doesn't arrive in time, or it's delayed, or there's been a misunderstanding and the person who owns it believes it's for the next day, not for that particular day, you've got 100 people, 200 people just sitting around waiting for that scene to be taking place. Even the main actors, all the crew, all the extras. And it's very stressful if that happens because you now what do? You're going to lose the entire day
Yeah.
that you earmarked for that scene. That maybe you had to choose a certain location and get the permits for that day, and you won't have it for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you've got to quickly make decisions on the spot. And when you're having to wear two hats, like I did in Tenebras, which is a producer's hat, and then the director's hat, that's
Yeah.
double the stress
Yeah.
because producing a film is stressful enough. When you've got to direct it, also, it's even more stressful
Yeah.
because you have to be 100% focused on all the aspects required for those shots to be taken correctly.
Yeah.
So it is stressful. It is stressful, but if you like it and you've got the passion for it, that's half the battle won
That's
because
it.
you can easily go and overcome any problems.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an example. In Gibraltar, we did a scene in the port, and I had acquired six boats for that. Two tugs, a racing boat, a local authority, a customs boat, and a gopher boat to take people up and down. And everything worked to the T because I had spent 2 months prior to that day
Yeah.
making sure that everyone was on board. And to give you an idea of how stressful it was to shoot to an entire morning in the port of Gibraltar, we had to get permission from the local government, the port authority, the harbour master, the military, the customs officials. It's a long list of individuals. And in order for that to happen, there's 2 months of constant meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to meet everyone one day, then we meet them following week, and until the day actually arrives, and you're still praying, and hopefully that out of the 6 boats, at least you get 5. I
Yeah.
was fortunate that I got the 6, but you're always constantly in the back of your mind, always having a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
If something should fail or doesn't arrive,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Because everyone, all the eyes are on you
Mm-hmm.
as a producer and the director to
Yeah.
make sure that everything goes to plan. So it is very stressful.
Yeah.
And I also want to add, yeah, while we're on the same project on this in Tenebras, that
Yeah.
Templegate Films from America, Rick
Mm-hmm.
Ballantyne, is doing the music score. He's a brilliant composer and also a very good friend of mine.
Oh wow, that's wonderful. I can imagine. I believe that being a producer and a director calls for adaptability, innovative thinking, being able to make a plan, problem solving, and I appreciate the fact that you took 2 months to plan before those boats were supposed to be there, before that day took place. That's a lot of work to go over the rollout schedule to see what needs to happen, who needs to be where and when. That's a lot of moving parts.
And and those 2 months was just for one scene, which in
Oh
the
my
film is going to
goodness.
last
Wow.
maybe 2 minutes. And I also want to give my gratitude to 2 associations in Gibraltar, Rock Scorpions and Rock Gunners,
Oh,
who their members all played part of the military scenes in this film, and they're lovely guys, talented, most ex-military, and they all know the stuff really good, and the
awesome.
weapons are literally out of this world.
Oh, shout out to them. Absolutely. Now, when we watch a film, Martin, we will think, what was the process behind this scene? What was the planning behind this scene? And we will appreciate it even so much more because nobody knows everything, all the planning, all the intricacies, all the moving parts that go into that scene to bring it to our screen so that we can sit and watch and enjoy it. So I take my hat off to you. It sounds like a wonderful adventure.
It is a very passionate adventure and one that I really like. The more challenge, the better.
Yes, that's good. I like that. I absolutely like that. You never shy away from a challenge. Adventure is always around the corner. It's always about our perspectives. How do we view a situation? I always believe in looking for the good in a situation. And you are also a novelist. And I absolutely loved listening to how you approached your latest book with the research that you did. So please tell the audience about your book. It's Snatched, The Unforgettable Cruise.
Correct. Snatched, The Unforgettable Cruise, was published by Michael Terence Publishing in England in December of last year. And it's available in Amazon and Barnes and Noble and many other sites. And it focuses on real life crimes on board cruise ships. People, when they board a cruise ship, doesn't matter where in the world they board it. Let's take, for example, Florida. Hypothetical scenario. You're
Yeah,
going to Florida, you're going to board an American cruise line. You walk up the gangplank, and you step on board, and you say to yourself, I'm going to have a great time here.
yeah,
But without realizing, the moment you step on the gangplank, you're no longer in an American cruise liner, and you're no longer in America. You're wherever the ship has been registered, which is a
yes.
flag of convenience. And most of those ships are registered in a third world country, like
Mm-hmm.
Bermuda, Bahamas, and
Yeah,
so on. And you have to realize that you are under those restrictions of law and policing authority too. Because, like you probably know, in a cruise line, there are
yeah.
no police. You're
Oh,
you're just protected by a security group, the cruise security.
yeah.
So if anything should happen, which unfortunately a lot of things do happen on board cruise lines, more
Yes.
than people assume they do, then you have to you're not protected. you're as a citizen, you have to rely on, like I mentioned before, a police individual coming from those countries, which can be from the other side of the world. By the
Yeah.
time it comes to your rescue, maybe 2 or 3 days have passed
It's a
since
long
the crime happened. And the crime scene would probably be contaminated by having thousands of people walking up and down
Yeah.
the crime area. And the most common crime on board a cruise ship, so people, your viewers are aware, are rapes
Oh,
and predators, pedophiles. They go after kids. But also, a lot of people disappear on board cruise lines internationally. In the
yeah.
past 10 years, nearly 300 people have gone missing
Oh my
on board a
God.
cruise.
That's a lot.
And those numbers are continuing to escalate.
Yeah.
I haven't made things up. I mean, I've basically just with the assistance of the International Cruise Victims Organization from America and
Yeah.
their lawyers, Mr. Jim Walker from Florida, for the
Yeah.
past 3 years, I've been excessively researching, thanks to their database of crimes and cases. I've compiled 6 of the most horrendous cases there were, and I created this story, which the character played by a female called Chloe,
Yeah.
what she passes as the story of the film of the actual book continues,
Yeah.
what she passes is what 6 people have actually gone through in real life, which is horrendous.
Oh,
And the father of Chloe goes to investigate the disappearance of her daughter, and realizing now the legality of how the cruise industry stands today, and it has been since the old laws were over 100 years, maritime laws were in place,
yeah.
that the passenger and the crew member are not protected as they should be. So things happen on board cruise liners every day,
Yes.
and we are hearing maybe something because
Yeah.
the crew industry just puts everything under the carpet.
Oh my.
But the statistics speak for themselves.
Yeah.
The crimes on board cruise liners are horrendous,
Oh my
and
goodness.
there's nothing you can do about it
Yeah.
because you are under the jurisdiction of wherever the ship is registered, which most of the cases are in these godforsaken countries
Middle of
for
nowhere.
tax purposes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes sense. It really makes sense that they wouldn't be able to catch the culprit because a crime scene being left as is for 2 to 3 days. There's so much time for whoever did whatever there to go back and change whatever or take away evidence or, as you said, many other people can contaminate the scene. Actually, it's a very scary thought. But it's good that you brought
It,
that information so that people can know, not be oblivious to this. Yeah,
the book I wrote the book to make people aware of
yeah,
what's happening,
good.
to protect yourself. The book is filled with a lot of information apart from the actual story of the book. It also has information of how you can protect yourself on board a cruise line. How, and also statements of victims who mention and state what happened to them also, and where, mentioning the cruise by names and dates too.
Yeah.
The whole concept of this book, Snatch the Unforgettable Cruise, is to make people aware that
Mm,
it's very easy for something to happen to you, and
yeah.
how you can try to avoid that, not
Mm,
only for yourself, but for loved ones, your friends,
mm,
or relatives that may be going on a cruise,
mm.
and try to not be another statistic, unfortunately.
Yes,
And this
absolutely.
is not something that only happens in a certain line. We're
Mm,
talking about cruises all over the world, in
mm,
any ship, because they all have the same maritime laws. They
mm.
all fly in the same medians.
Yeah.
They all have the same loopholes where
Mm,
predators, rapists,
see.
killers can get away with, because it's very easy
Yeah.
to do a crime on board a cruise, to kill someone and
Oh,
get away with it. It's very easy, and it happens, unfortunately, more frequent than people know, are
Yeah.
aware.
I agree. The research that you've done shows it, you know, the statistics shows it. And I believe that bringing that awareness to the people is going to save lives because people are going to read that book. They're going to have the know-how and they can avoid these type of crimes. I can imagine that, you know, all the predators would flock to these ships because they know it's easy prey. And that's so sad, but that's how the world is, guys. It's a dangerous place out there. It's dangerous.
They do, and unfortunately, some of these ships are targeted by these predators. Include the Disney, Disney ships supposed to be a safe haven for children.
Oh,
And there was this very popular, well, I'm not going to say popular, but very unfortunate incident that happened to an 11-year-old girl.
yeah,
The CCTV footage of the ship actually caught this on camera.
yeah,
There's a lobby, and there are 4 elevators, 4 lifts. And
yes,
there's this girl, she's just by herself, she's wandering off by herself. And she goes into one of the lifts, but she's followed by an Indian from Goa, a man about 40 years old, who follows her into the lift and starts fondling with her,
oh,
really, really in a aggressive manner.
yeah,
But no one comes to the rescue. And the girl manages to use her intelligence, and with her leg, she maintains the lift doors from closing.
oh, thank
So all
God.
the time, remember, it's in CCTV footage.
Yeah,
It's out there. All the time, the girl is fighting for her life. She's shouting for help. She's crying her eyes off. But then suddenly, someone comes, frightens the man, who flees the scene, and then the girl just walks out crying in desperation and runs to find her parents. Now, the parents go to report the incident to the purser. The purser reports it to the captain,
yeah,
but nothing happens. Nothing happens. The mother is fuming. She wants justice. She wants to see those CCTV footage. She wants to see this guy under bars.
yes,
Nothing happens. The document states the following: the ship is en route to its next destination. When the ship arrives, the guy from India is
yeah,
transferred immediately from that ship and boarding a sister ship. So now the problem is out of that ship, and now it's a problem of someone else. And it took the mother a lot of persuasion, a lot of insistence, a lot of really passion
yeah,
to continue this persecution of the guy, in all fairness,
yeah.
until eventually the guy 9 months afterwards,
Oh,
9 months after the fact, he finally gets arrested. But in those 9 months, in another cruise liner with kids, imagine what he must have done. That
how
could have
many
easily been
others?
stopped.
How many others were his
So,
victims?
and this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
And if it wasn't for the perseverance of the mother,
yes.
fighting and insisting she wanted justice, the guy would have been scot-free, still
Oh,
out there. And that's
goodness.
one of them.
One of so many. I can't wait to read your book. I'm going to get myself a copy. Audience, I encourage you to get yourself a copy as well. I already had to sit down with my kids yesterday, Martin, and I told him what we talked about, the cruise liners. And I remember telling Martin, if I ever go on a cruise liner, I'm taking my bodyguards with me because they need to stay by the
You
door.
know, I,
We need to be aware.
I, I, I want to stress something very important. I haven't written this book against the cruise industry.
No.
I've got nothing against any of the industries at all. I've written it to make people aware of how easy it is to fall victim on board a cruise line,
Yeah.
and to make people safer.
Yeah.
Here's another example. It won't take long.
No, of
An
course.
American lady, she boards a Florida cruise,
Yeah.
and the moment she's in her 40s, she's by herself. The moment she walks into the first day, she walks into a stateroom, she gets raped by a cruise member.
A
And
member.
she spends the entire duration of, yeah, in her stateroom. She's by herself. She's a vulnerable victim. And this crew member knows she's by herself. He's got the access key, master key, to get in. He does, rape her, threatens her to a point that she stays the entire, I think it was 6 days cruise, locked up in her own stateroom because she couldn't even ask for help.
She's too scared.
And it's something really, really wrong somewhere when these incidents happen. Again, when she walked out after the cruise, she reported the crime, but because it had happened in international waters, again, the same jurisdiction, some guy had to come from the other part of the world, and it was just so much trauma, so much problems that it's, it's an unfortunate ordeal.
Yeah. So much red tape, these legal, I understand that open waters can be, it can bring a lot of red tape to a case, the time that lapses. And, we have to stand up against the predators out there. We have to stand up against the pedophiles. And this is a positive step in the right direction to bring awareness with parents as well, to look after their children better and to have a better eye on them. I mean, that mom, I absolutely take my hat off to her. I salute her for chasing that man that had hurt her daughter for 9 months, because she is saving so many lives now. And I feel very sorry for the others that had suffered in those 9 months that he was running free. It's not fair, but the world is a very dangerous place.
It's a very dangerous place, and when you have the facility to roam free because you know that you are as a predator are protected in many ways, because you know the loopholes to escape.
Yes.
Then when's it gonna stop? It'll never stop. It'll just continue. Crew members also disappear on cruise lines. One of the most common crew member that disappeared was Rebecca Coram from Cheshire, from England.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, she disappeared. She on board another Disney cruise ship. Her job was to monitor the children.
Yeah.
When a family go on board a cruise and they tell the kids and they drop the kids off in this kindergartens or places, so the monitors look after them, play areas. Yeah. So they are monitored by these individuals. So then the parents can just have a few hours by themselves. But you don't know who the individuals are. And this is another problem. But returning back to Rebecca Coram, she disappeared very mysteriously on board a cruise line, one of the Disney ships.
Yeah.
And the circumstances were so suspicious that when her parents flew from England to America to see from where her daughter had supposedly jumped from the ship, even the mother couldn't escalate to where the daughter had supposedly jumped. On the scene of the jump, they had found some footwear, flip-flops, but they were different size to the daughter's size. So everything was very mysterious. Everything was very strange. And the cruise industry is very quick to say, "Oh, someone jumped. They must have jumped. They've committed suicide. Case closed." And that's the default setting for them. Every time someone disappears, passenger crew, the first thing they say, they've jumped, they've fallen over, and that's it. Move on.
Oh my goodness. They just brush it off. Yeah, people lose their lives.
Yeah, they have to.
Brush it off.
The cruise ship has to go from A to B within a certain time. If someone jumps and the ship has to reverse and sail back to do a search pattern, it's going to interrupt the schedule. So they've got to turn over the crew and the passengers.
Oh my.
So they don't want to stop midway and do a search pattern. They do that if they have to, they will. But most
I don't
cases, if
want
someone
to.
jumps at night, no
Mm,
one's going to see them. And to do a search pattern then is crazy because where will you start? When
absolutely.
did they jump? At what time?
Yeah. Horrible.
So it's very hard. But all this is covered in the book anyway, in detail. So it's
I
and
love
much more information.
Yeah, and this is 3 years worth of research, audience. Martin did his research, so it's going to be a very, very good book. I know you mentioned it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, if I'm correct. I remember you said that yesterday.
Yes, it's available in Amazon, anywhere in the world in Amazon, at Barnes and Noble, and in other outlets, which the publisher has arranged internationally. Also want to mention one very important thing.
Yeah.
The International Cruise Victim Association um, head office is in America, but there's also another branch in Australia.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are two associations, and you can access them. Just go to the websites, and you've got a list of all the crimes,
Yeah.
a lot of information there at your disposal if anyone is interested to learn more about these incidents.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the book's name, just to reiterate, is Snatched: The Unforgettable Cruise. So get your copy today. And I've got good news because Martin has upcoming projects as well. I believe it's Station 211 and The Fifth Kind. Tell us more.
Yes, Station 211 and the Fifth Kind have been co-written with my associate in England, Russell Goh,
Yeah.
and well, Fifth Kind also has been co-written with Thomas Hauser from the States. But let's go into each project. Station 211. Let's start with that one. It's an 8 episode TV series, and it's supposed to be taking the X-Files to a next step, to a next level. And it deals with a lot of alien and science fiction and conspiracies around the world, focusing on a great timeline of events, great characters, loads of action, and it deals with a great plot to take control of the world. And that Station 211 relates to a German base they had during the war in Antarctica called Kramer 211, which is Station 211 in German.
Oh.
And then the Fifth Kind is similar. It's an offspin from Station 211, but it's more realistic in the sense of having three very important paranormal and UFO investigators also on board there, and they also co-created the series with us. And these are Don Schmidt, Ben Hansen, and Brittany Barbary, and from America. And they brought in so much great expertise and real life stories about their past, what they've dealt with, things that the government doesn't want us to know about. Also, everything thrown into the mix. And again, the Fifth Kind is also 8 series episode, and it has the potential to also put the X-File, but really up there too. And these are two projects that are currently under development.
I loved to watch the X-Files. It was a thing. I love watching documentaries about Area 51 and all the UFOs. So this is something that we need to watch. As soon as it comes out, I'm going to be watching it.
Then you're going to love Station 211, and you're going to love The Fifth Kind, because
Fantastic.
they are really, really, really great. Not because
I
I helped write them, but because the plots themselves are really wow. And the amount of information and research that got into them was also great.
Yeah. Teaching us more, and who doesn't love a good plot twist, right? Absolutely love it. It's one of those aha moments. I watched the series with my son the other day, and we were kind of watching, and I was working, and as I looked up, something happened, and we both went, oh, in the same moment, audibly, and we didn't see it coming. So, guys, those are the moments that we live for when we watch these wonderful series and movies, and Martin is a part of that. He brings this to life. So, I want to thank you, Martin. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today. It was such a tremendous honor. I had so much fun talking to you and learning from you, and blessings all the way. Thank you for making the world a better place.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me on your show. And I hope that everyone is well, healthy, and you have a great day also.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day, guys. Bye-bye, Martin. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and have a good evening. Bye bye now.